Quest to Succeed, Chapter 5. In his 8th standard at the secondary school, Jay read a book called Our Ancestors, Hamare Purvas. It was a part of his Hindi course that year. It was a collection of stories about the lives and activities of Hindu sages and rajas, kings. Emphasis was laid on their sacrifices and achievements, and that they always tried to speak the truth. No one should tell a lie, even when a person could save someone's life. Jay was impressed with such anecdotes because he had heard many tales from his dad. The narrative of Raja Harishchandra of Ayodhya was immensely popular in India. It had been presented in many books and in many languages. In the early 20th century, films had been made on the life of Raja Harishchandra, who was famous for speaking the truth and giving dan, donations. No one left his premises without receiving something or the other. Raja Harishchandra ruled the kingdom of Ayodhya in the Treta Yuga, some 7,000 years ago. He looked after the interests of his subjects. Everyone was happy and contented in his city-state. One day, sage Vishwamitra came to his city. He was well received by the king and his ministers. Before leaving the city, the sage asked Raja to donate his kingdom and his belongings to him. The king relinquished the throne and gave the kingdom to the sage. He was ready to leave the city, to find a job and a place to live for himself and his family. At the same time, the residents of the city also became ready to leave with their king. Rishi Vishwamitra stopped them, saying that only the king had been asked to relinquish the kingdom. The public cannot leave. They would be needed to carry out the daily functions of the state. The king and his family were not allowed to carry anything with them. They would have to leave in the clothes they were wearing. Still, the sage said to the king that he should give him more donations. The king had nothing left. His wife, Queen Taramati, offered herself for sale. Their son Rohitasva started to cry. He was not ready to live without his mother. The man who agreed to purchase Queen Taramati offered to buy the prince as well, and gave some more money, which was passed on to Rishi Vishwamitra. The sage demanded more donations. Raja Harishchandra offered to sell himself. However, no one was prepared to buy the Raja. The Raja then tried to seek employment. Business people were not ready to employ the king. He now started to look for any kind of job and went around in disguise. He was offered a job by a Dom, cremation worker. He started his employment as Dom's assistant. He was instructed to charge money before allowing cremation. He did his job faithfully and passed on the earning to Dom, who paid him a basic pay which was sufficient for his living. After a few months, Queen Taramati came to the crematorium with the body of their son Rohitasva, who had died of a snake bite. Harishchandra asked her to pay the fee before cremation. The queen had no money. The Raja himself had no money to pay for their son's cremation. When this argument was going on, Seja Vishwamitra appeared and said that he was only testing the king, who was famous for keeping his promise and word and insisting on speaking the truth. Rishi, sage. Vishwamitra contemplated that he would make Harishchandra break his promise and lead him astray from the path of the truth. Trustworthiness and honesty, however, could not be defeated. The king passed his test of truthfulness. Sage Vishwamitra returned the kingdom of Ayodhya to the king. He also called a doctor to remove poison from Prince Rohitasva's body. The prince became conscious and alive. King Harishchandra, Queen Taramati, and Prince Rohitasva returned to their kingdom. The Raja had to encounter difficulties and make choices. In the end, nonetheless, he was victorious. He was still remembered as a person who faced enormous problems and obstacles, yet he did not accept defeat or succumb from the path of the truth. People should take a lesson from their lives and devotion to honesty and truthfulness. Closer to the high school examination time, Jay and his friend revised their course and practiced mathematics together. His friend used to come to Jay's room rather than Jay going to his house. Jay continued to live in the same room on his own, where he used to live with Nakul. His brother had left the city after his graduation to look for an employment in Delhi, the capital of India. When Jay had time, he carefully considered the character of his brother Nakul and found him aggressive and impulsive, who behaved without forethought and without considering the consequences. In the first few weeks in the city, he slapped him on his cheek, which made a red mark on his cheek. He felt that Nakul was irresponsible in his actions and manners. In the village, he displayed superficial charm and showed that he was caring, helpful, and trustworthy. He often tried to make a good impression on adults, but he lacked human compassion, charity, and social concern. Antisocial conduct starts in childhood and continues in the adult life. Nakul was never remorseful for his wrongdoing. Jay realized that Nakul would not change. He therefore changed himself and had nothing to do with his brother in the later years. He, however, could not break ties with him in the immediate future for social reasons. In this, Nakul lost out, but once he told Jay that he was at a loss by ignoring him and working with kind and honest people. He tried to rationalize his point of view. He had learned his lesson. It was not easy to live in the company of a dominating elder brother. He could not visit his friends at their houses or invite them to his flat. Jay had lived in the city for a few years and on his own for 2 years. His life had become detached. He could not correlate with his siblings or with his friends in his village. In the past, he was close to his siblings and friends in the proximity of his house in the village. His thinking became different as he had been influenced by the city culture. Sometimes he found himself between the two cultures, the village culture and the city culture. People were remarkably close and caring in the villages. City life was based on individual and his surroundings. Jay nonetheless concentrated on his studies and continued his education at school. In his 6th standard examination at his secondary school, he came first in his class. He was given a choice, either to get a scholarship or get concession in his school fee. He preferred the latter, and for the next 4 years, he did not have to pay the school fees. It would help his dad, who did not have to contribute towards his tuition charges for the duration of his secondary education. He studied social sciences and languages for his high school examination. He enjoyed his course. He developed good relations with his colleagues and teachers. He was appointed class captain by the form tutor, who sometimes asked him to look after the group of students when he, class teacher, was not present in the room. If the peon did not turn up to collect the class register, Jay deposited it at the office. One day, he deposited the register at the office and returned to the classroom. He did not shut the door. He sat down in his seat. The teacher questioned him, "Did you find the door open when you were entering the room?" The teacher used to keep the room door closed because of the chilly wind and noise. Jay went back to the door and shut it. In this example, he learned a lesson that one should not change the situation without a good reason. Before entering the room, the door was closed. He should therefore have left it as he found. One of his high school friends' dads had an ice factory. They made ice bricks to supply to shops in the summer, where people needed ice to cool their water. There were no freezers in those days. They also made ice cream. One day this friend invited a few classmates to the factory to show it. He also offered ice cream to all the boys. After taking ice cream, Jay and his companions paid money to the friend who accepted the payment. The students returned to their homes. Next day, however, Jay's friend paid the money back to all of them. He explained that his dad told him that the cost was not as much as was charged by the retailers. The father also suggested that when you invite friends to the factory, you should not take money. It should be a treat from one friend to his classmates and friends. They all accepted the refund, though they argued that it was for the ice cream they had. Jay continued to live in the room on his own. He did not ask anyone to share it with him. He lived alone for 2 years. He used to cook his own food. Initially, it was difficult to make chapatis. He could cook rice, lentils and vegetables and make parathas, put ghee on the chapati while it was still on the hot plate. In course of time, however, through trial and error, he started to make chapatis. He always had enough food to eat. He never had a meal at a restaurant during his stay in the city. Jay did not have to pay any school fee for 4 years for his secondary education. Nevertheless, to register for the high school board examination, he was required to remit the examination fee of 15 rupees. He went to see a couple of shopkeepers in the town who did business with his dad, and asked them if they could lend him money for his examination fee. They both declined, saying that your dad has not authorized to lend you money. He went to the village to obtain the examination fee. His dad was not in the village on that day. His grandfather arranged his examination fee. He sent Gautam's friend Yusuf with ghee, purified butter, to sell in the town market and remunerate Jay's examination fee. Jay and Yusuf walked together from the village to the town. They sold ghee at a shop. Jay managed to pay his examination fee on time. Yusuf returned to the village and told Jay's grandfather that the examination fee had been deposited. When his dad returned to the village, he was informed about Jay's examination fee payment. There was no cash in the house or at the shop. His grandfather had to sell ghee, purified butter. A few days later, his dad went to the town to buy commodities for the shop and saw him in his room. He gave him some money for daily expenses and asked him if he needed anything else. Jay said, "If you want to buy me something, you could purchase cloth for a shirt." His father bought cloth for a shirt and gave him money to pay to the tailor. Jay continued to go to his village to visit his parents and other members of the family over the weekends. On a Sunday, the village council, Panchayat, was holding a meeting to discuss how to improve the village sanitation system. Jay suggested to the villagers that there was a need for a chairperson to conduct the meeting. Any person could present their views or address the meeting. There was also a representation of women at this meeting. A middle-aged man was elected as the chairperson to conduct the meeting. His brother Nakul was also present in the village on that day. He laughed at Jay's suggestion for a chairperson to conduct the meeting. He thought that the simple villagers would not understand such formalities. Jay, however, wanted to introduce the same system as existed in cities and towns and in schools and colleges. Of course, people at the meeting understood and appreciated the suggestion. They started to respect Jay, who was learning something at school and wanted to bring innovative ideas and systems to his village. When he was in his 10th class, the school organized a mock parliament. The teachers and students participated in it. Some teachers became ministers and students became legislators, MPs. The MPs asked questions of ministers and sought answers on local issues. Jay played as an MP and asked a question on road repairs and road maintenance. He also inquired about water supply in his local area. He was very much interested in civic activities. Other students asked questions on health, housing, and the transport system. There was a proper opening of the mock parliament, which was done by the vice principal of the school. Some parents turned up to see the political drama. All who came to see the play appreciated and praised it. Jay's grandfather's shop was the largest in the village. There was, however, no need for everyone in the family to work and stay there. In his early age, Gautam used to help Grandpa, especially on days when their dad went to town to purchase articles for the shop. However, when he was about 18 years of age, he wanted to start his own business. He started a milk dairy in the village. He employed 2 workers to assist him. They used to collect milk in the morning from farmers, make it hot, and separated cream from milk. They used a machine for this purpose. One of the workers used to stay at the dairy in the village, and the other used to take the separated milk to the city by train. The worker staying in the village used to convert cream into ghee, which was sold in the nearby town market. One day the first worker was taking milk to the railway station on his way to the city. A police officer shouted from behind and asked him to stop, which he did. The police officer arrived at the spot. He asked the worker to open the milk container canister. On checking the milk with an instrument, he told him that the milk was not completely fresh, but if he paid 50 rupees, all would be good. The worker, however, did not have any money on him. Moreover, there was nothing wrong with his milk. He refused to bribe the police officer. The police officer kicked the milk canister container. The milk fell on the ground. The worker looked at the police officer and said that he had heard stories of the rivers of milk flowing in ancient India, but today he had seen that the rivers of milk had started to flow again in the independent country. What a waste of milk and loss to him and to Gautam, for whom he worked. This loss happened because the worker refused to afford 50 rupees to the police officer as a bribe. He was against the corrupt practice of bribery, which was evil and should not be emboldened. He was ready to suffer a loss rather than to follow a corrupt system. During the period Jay stayed in the town on his own, he sometimes felt lonely. In the evening at about 8 p.m., he used to go to watch and listen to recitation of the epic Ramayana. It was sung in a poetry form by a group of people which included the reader of poetry, his daughter, and persons on musical instruments, harmonium and tabla, drum. It was quite interesting, and Jay attended it 2 or 3 times a week for a few months. During the Ramayana recitation, the speaker suggested that people with religious inclination should go for the Ganga bath in the holy city of Haridwar or any nearby town but located on the banks of river Ganga. A city called Anupshahar was only about 20 miles from Jay's village and the town where he was studying. He was very much impressed and decided to have a holy bath after the Diwali festival. He went to his village for the Diwali celebration and told his parents that he would like to go for the Ganga bath. His mother was not in favor of him going to the holy city, about which he knew nothing. But when he insisted that he would go, he would walk. They do not have to spend any money on this journey. His father agreed to go with him, and he would not have to travel alone. When they were going to the Ganga river, they discovered that quite a few people from their village were also traveling to the same holy city in their bullock carts. Jay and his father accompanied them. Sometimes Jay was asked to sit in the cart, which he did, though he preferred to walk with his dad. At the end of this journey, his dad said that it was a good decision, and they enjoyed the bath in the holy river Ganga and a change in the routine.